The stooped old man pulled his pickup truck to the roadside, offering a water bottle and sandwich to a man trudging along the empty highway. He asked no questions, he simply said, "I was rescued once. Now it's my turn to help." 24 hours later, in the middle of an open field, a military helicopter descended from the sky, and that same man stepped out, not to say thank you. If you believe good deeds always come back around, type YES to spread kindness. Welcome to QH. Let's uncover what really happened. Samuel Drake was 68 years old, a former Navy SEAL who lived alone on the outskirts of Ridgevale, Nevada. His small ranch house sat at the end of a dusty road, surrounded by cacti and scrub brush that thrived in the desert heat. None of his neighbors knew about his military background. To them, he was just the peculiar old man who meticulously folded the American flag outside his home every evening at sunset. Some found it charming, others thought it obsessive. On a scorching Tuesday afternoon, Samuel was driving his weathered pickup truck back from the hills where he sometimes went to find peace in the silence. As he rounded a bend on the empty highway, he spotted a man walking unsteadily along the shoulder. The stranger's skin was reddened from the sun, his gait wobbly from dehydration. The temperature had climbed to 106 degrees, dangerous even for those accustomed to Nevada summers. Without hesitation, Samuel pulled over. He reached into his cooler and grabbed a water bottle, beaded with condensation, and a sandwich he'd packed for himself. "Here," Samuel said, extending both toward the man who appeared to be in his 30s. "You need these more than I do." The man's hands trembled as he accepted the offerings. "Thank you," he managed between urgent gulps of water. "The nearest gas station is 7 miles ahead. I can take you there if you like," Samuel offered. The stranger nodded gratefully and climbed into the passenger seat. As they drove, he asked, "Why did you stop? Most people just drive by." Samuel kept his eyes on the road. "Back in '84, I was lost in the woods for 2 days during a training exercise gone wrong. A hunter turned his truck around for me. I never got to repay him." They rode mostly in silence after that. When they reached the gas station, the man thanked Samuel again. "Take this," Samuel said, handing him his worn baseball cap. "Keep the sun off your neck." That evening, as Samuel was collecting his mail, his neighbor Tom called over the fence. "Saw you helping that drifter earlier. Be careful. Nowadays, kindness just invites trouble." Samuel just nodded politely. Later, an old friend from town called. "Tom at the gas station mentioned you dropped off some hitchhiker. You should be careful, Ray. People film these interactions nowadays. Twist them around. You could end up as some viral nightmare." Samuel thanked him for his concern and hung up, his weathered face betraying no emotion. He understood their warnings, but some values ran deeper than modern caution. That evening, Samuel sat alone at his kitchen table, the desert sunset casting long shadows across the wooden floor. He opened the bottom drawer of his desk, a place he rarely visited, and removed a small metal box. Inside lay his SEAL Trident insignia, tarnished dog tags, and a yellowed photograph taken in Mosul. 5 men stood arm in arm, their faces young and determined beneath a layer of dust. Only Samuel remained. He ran his thumb over the embossed eagle on his trident, then carefully returned everything to the box. The radio played softly in the background as he peeled an apple with practiced precision, the skin coming off in one continuous spiral. His thoughts drifted to the man he'd helped earlier. He hoped he'd made it to wherever he was going safely. The next morning, Samuel's phone began buzzing with unusual frequency. A former neighbor had sent him a link to a social media post that was rapidly gaining attention. There was a photo of his old cap, along with the caption, "A stranger rescued me in the Nevada desert yesterday." No name, no photos, just pure kindness. The post had thousands of shares already. Samuel scrolled to the comments section and found a disturbing mix of responses. While many praised the anonymous Good Samaritan, others were cynical. "Staged. Nobody does this without filming it for clout. Probably just promotion for some charity." Plot twist. The old man is a serial killer luring victim. Someone had even fabricated a story claiming the old man with the pickup had been sued previously for similar stunts. Another commenter confidently declared, "That guy is probably one of those fake veterans who never served a day." Samuel closed his laptop with a soft chuckle and a shake of his head. By afternoon, a local news van had parked at the end of his driveway. A young reporter approached his door with a microphone in hand. "Mr. Drake, we'd like to talk to you about your roadside rescue yesterday. Are you trying to create a viral moment?" Samuel stood in his doorway, shoulders straight despite his age. He gestured toward the American flag flying in his yard. "I live by what that represents. I don't need moments of any kind." the reporter pressed. But in today's climate, surely you must have had some hesitation about helping a stranger. Weren't you concerned for your safety? Samuel's weathered face remained impassive. When you've seen what I've seen, your calculation of risk changes. The segment aired that evening, but they edited his responses down to sound bites that fit their narrative of reckless kindness versus reasonable caution. Online debates intensified, with self-appointed experts weighing in on everything from highway safety statistics to veteran mental health issues, all without knowing anything about Samuel or his quiet life of principle. I apologize, but I can't remain silent any longer. Are we living in times when kindness is questioned before it's even acknowledged? If you believe people like Samuel deserve our respect, please type HONOR. The next morning, the distinctive thump-thump of rotor blades cut through the desert air without warning. Samuel stepped onto his porch, shading his eyes against the sun, as a UA-60 Blackhawk helicopter descended onto the open field across from his house. The military aircraft stirred up a small sandstorm as it touched down with precision. Neighbors emerged from their homes, smartphones raised to capture the unexpected event. Traffic on the distant highway slowed as drivers craned their necks to see what was happening. 4 soldiers in combat uniforms disembarked, followed by a man in officer's dress blue. Samuel recognized him immediately, the stranger from the highway, now standing tall and moving with purpose. The officer crossed the field toward Samuel's house, his team following in perfect formation. When he reached the porch, he snapped into a salute that Samuel hadn't received in decades. Chief Petty Officer Samuel Drake, 2nd Class. I'm Captain Logan Reese, 15th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. His voice carried across the now silent neighborhood. Yesterday you rescued me without knowing who I was. Samuel returned the salute instinctively, muscle memory from another lifetime. Captain Reese continued, loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. I was conducting a solo navigation exercise when my vehicle broke down. Communications equipment failed. Protocol prohibited using civilian phones. He gestured to the men behind him. My team was waiting at the extraction point. If I hadn't arrived within the window, a recovery mission would have been launched in hostile territory. You didn't just give me water. Your assistance preserved a classified training operation. The captain's next words sent a ripple through the onlookers. After our encounter, we ran a standard background check. Reese's voice softened slightly. We discovered you're not just any veteran. You're Samuel Drake, Navy SEAL, recipient of the Silver Star for action in Panama. You never claimed your full benefits or recognition after discharge. Samuel's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes. Surprised that anyone had bothered to look, Reese nodded to his team. In perfect synchronization, they lined up and executed a formal military salute. A news crew that had followed the helicopter filmed the entire exchange. For the first time in decades, Samuel Drake was publicly acknowledged as the hero he'd always been. Captain Reese reached into his pocket and removed Samuel's cap, now mounted in a simple shadow box, with a brass plaque reading, "The SEAL spirit endures anytime, anywhere. On behalf of those who still serve, we thank you for maintaining our highest values, even out of uniform." As cameras flashed and neighbors whispered in astonishment, Samuel stood straight-backed on his porch. For a brief moment, those who knew how to look could see the young warrior still living within the old man's frame. A week later, the media furor had died down, but something had changed in Samuel's neighborhood. Children who had once been cautioned to avoid the strange old man's house were now brought by their parents to meet him. A young girl with pigtails and missing front teeth looked up at him one afternoon. "Were you a real hero, Mr. Drake?" Samuel knelt down to her level, his knees protesting. "No, little one, just someone who was helped once and didn't forget how to help others." The local elementary school invited him to speak at their Veterans Day assembly. He declined the microphone, but sat quietly in the audience, nodding appreciatively as the children sang. Captain Reese returned without fanfare one evening, this time in civilian clothes. He brought a properly folded American flag in a triangular case. "This flew over our base in Kandahar," he said simply, handing it to Samuel. "The men wanted you to have it." Samuel accepted it with a silent nod. Words had never been his strength. The shadow box containing his old cap now hung beside his door, not as a trophy but as a reminder of connections formed in unexpected moments. Tom, the neighbor who had warned him about helping strangers, stood awkwardly at Samuel's gate one evening. He placed his hand over his heart, nodded once, and walked away. No words were needed. The online post that had started it all was now being used in military training sessions, about core values transcending circumstances. Captain Reese had made sure of that. Samuel's quiet life gradually returned to normal. He still folded his flag each sunset. He still took drives into the hills when the house felt too empty. But now when he passed other vehicles stopped on the roadside, he noticed more people getting out to help. A small ripple effect from a story that had touched more people than he would ever know. On the anniversary of the helicopter landing, a small package arrived with no return address. Inside was a handcrafted wooden plaque bearing the Navy SEAL ethos, with one line highlighted, "My character and honor are steadfast and consistent." Below it someone had written, "Some heroes wear uniforms, others drive pickup trucks." Samuel placed it on his mantle next to the photos of brothers long gone. Then he put on his new cap, got in his truck and headed toward the highway. There were always people who might need help if you bothered to look. That evening Samuel sat on the porch under a violet sky, the folded flag from Kandahar, resting in his lap. He thought not of medals or recognition, but of small acts done quietly and without expectation. He remembered the hunter who once turned back for him, and how that ripple had become a wave. In a world full of noise, Samuel had chosen action, and that had made all the difference. Not everyone can see the beauty in kindness, but someone who has been wounded and still chooses to help others, that's the person who reminds us of our duty to be decent human beings. You may forget this story in a few days, but if nobody retells it, history will remain silent forever. Subscribe to Incredible Stories, where justice, kindness, and memory are protected until the end.